Hi everyone, this is Steph Katzovi here. I just had a phenomenal conversation with Kim. We talk about things related to childhood, we talk about goldfish, we talk about dogs, we talk about books, and the power of writing. This is something you're definitely going to want to tune into, and I hope you do.
Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. You're going to be so glad you're here. I am Kim Sorrelle. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. I get to do a lot of fun things in life, but my favorite thing by far is to meet people, and I get to meet some of the most extraordinary people that walk on the face of this earth. And today, I have my new friend Steph with me. She's a children's author, lawyer turned children's author, mother, wife, goldfish mom at one point in life. And so we're gonna get to know Steph and talk about what she's doing these days. So Steph, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And the fact that you've pulled up my past of having a goldfish for 6 days, you've done your homework.
Well, apparently it was a very important 6 days.
It was actually.
Yeah. So, okay. So I would like to start out with people really getting to know you. And so I want to hear about 8-year-old Steph.
Well, I think like many kids, I had a wide array of passions, but when you're younger and you do well in something and you get the encouragement, you realize, oh, maybe this is something I could think about, over the long term. And for me, it was writing. And I got a lot of great feedback from my teachers at the time. And, I was quite prolific in writing. I wrote a lot of different things, and those black and white composition notebooks, I filled so many volumes of those up, and I tried my hand at writing music, which was actually quite terrible, so we'll skip over that detail. But for me as a child, writing was a great outlet. It was a passion. It was something that I felt confident about. And over the years, I thought, this is something that this might be worthwhile pursuing. And the road from when I was 8 to where I am now, which is a little bit beyond 8, but it was a meandering path to get to where I ended up. I knew that I wanted to do writing in some form. And so for me, when I went to college and law school, I was like, well, let's be practical and think about how can I pay off the bills? How can I live in an apartment or, any space that is halfway decent? So I was like, okay, I'll get a job professionally writing. And, for me, it was amazing that I had this experience writing professionally. For many years, it was in the consulting side of Deloitte, and then eventually I ended up working for an executive there, and that was an amazing experience, largely because I was writing in someone else's voice for them so that they could deliver speeches that I'm crafting on their behalf. And it was an amazing way to learn how to write for your audience, and then how to understand what the audience is going to be interested in hearing about, because I would sit and watch him deliver these speeches and things that went well that I thought, yeah, that's going to be a great story. And then other elements of the speech that I thought were going to be so impactful and so profound were just kind of like people's eyes were glazing over. And so through trial and error, I think that made me ultimately become a better children's writer, because an adult audience is a little bit more patient than a children's audience, but you still need to get in there, tell the story that you want to tell, and try and do it with humor. And so, all these experiences just accumulated over my life. And when I decided it was time to switch over from professional to creative, I think I had, unbeknownst to me, been preparing all my life to have these tools and a skill set that just was prepared me to write the stories that I had deep down inside that I was burning to tell. And I think that's the long version of how I got to be where I am today. And hopefully that answered your question.
It did. It's so interesting to me because what a different thing, but yet the same, right? Like in some ways, writing is writing is writing.
Yeah.
Whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever it happens to be, speech writing, whatever it happens to be. But on the other hand, when you're writing for somebody and then they're the deliverer,
Right.
It's one thing when you're writing and you're going to have this group of people just reading, or whatever, or you get to deliver.
Yeah.
But when you're relying on somebody else delivering what you've written, what was that like? It just seems like that would be difficult.
It was difficult on a lot of different levels. When I first got the job, I was writing HR benefits for different clients, and it's a different feel for writing in general when you're writing, how to explain to enroll for your benefits or something like that. So it was very technical, which spoke to my law school background. But when an opening within Deloitte became known to me, I thought, oh, this could be a really cool opportunity to write for a really senior executive. And, for me, that also meant less travel because I was doing a lot of traveling. And one of the biggest reasons that I thought I would go into consulting was to have better hours than I was an attorney practicing at a law firm. And what ended up happening was I had both long hours and a lot of travel. So I got the worst of all worlds from what I thought I was going to get. But it was wonderful experience to be at a client site and working just to see, this is a company, it's a really different culture than whatever we had at Deloitte sometimes. And in other cases, when you go from different company to company, you see some are better than others. And when I heard about the opportunity to be a speechwriter, I thought, oh, this could be really amazing. And then I saw who his current speechwriter was, and this was a person that had been a speechwriter for 15 years, and he had all these different credentials that were far beyond what I thought I had as my skill set. And then I was like, oh shoot, maybe I'm out of my league here. And I looked at the drafts of speeches that he'd written for the executive, and I said, oh, these are really presidential sounding, like this is really elevated language. And so I studied them, and for the first speech that I wrote for the executive, once they sort of were giving me a trial period, I wrote this beautiful, lofty speech. And then when he delivered it, he didn't do, I would say, 90% of what I had written. He just kind of winged it because it wasn't what he really wanted. And having listened to him deliver the speech that he wanted to give, I started making notes. I paid attention to the stories that he told, and I kept this really long log of information about this executive, almost to the point where in another world, it could have been, creepy to have so much information on somebody's life. But it was the stories that he shared that I just started to take note of and accumulate. And then I would give him notes on tell this story, tell that story. And I would say within like 2 weeks, regardless of the fact that I had zero training as a speechwriter, and I just had a sharp brain and an eagerness to take on a new challenge, I was scared out of my mind. But ultimately, I figured it out. And even though I was not the person with 15 years experience doing what the predecessor had in the role, I managed. And then I stayed with this really lovely, wonderful person for about 10 or so years. And that's, I think, a long lifespan as a speechwriter for what ultimately was some young kid getting hired into a position she wasn't exactly qualified for, but, tried the fake it till you make it approach. And I guess in this case, I was successful.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. What a thing. That's really cool. Yeah. It's always interesting trying to think of the voice of somebody. Like even when you're writing fiction or nonfiction, when you're writing dialogue and you are trying to make the dialogue sound just like the person, how they would say it,
Yes.
figuring out inflections, how to bring that all across. There can be some difficulty in really bringing out the character, live or imagined character. And how do you find that process?
I think going back to the speech writing, it was beyond, a graduate degree education for me. The gentleman that I was writing for at the time was in his 50s. He was Italian. He was from Maplewood, New Jersey. And he had a different cadence than, I'm from upstate New York. So he had a very different cadence, a very different background for me. But I listened to him speak so much that I sort of absorbed how he would talk and how he would say something. And fast forward to where I am now writing for children. I'm fortunate I have two wonderful children of my own that, while they don't exactly talk how my characters talk, I sort of get the language of teenagers or tweens, as the case may be. And I think what I've been most successful at in writing dialogue is just almost inhabiting the characters as I would imagine they would speak. And I'm lucky in one sense that the main character in the series that I'm currently working on is a child version of me. So it's kind of the better version I will ever have been as a child, but with more humor and quirkier, and thankfully I can write the ending, so I get to have a little more control than real life. But I think just being able to really visualize the characters when it helps, that you've known them your whole life, or, in my case, when I was working for the executive, I knew them for many years. And so that familiarity really helped to elevate the characters and how they would say things. And, the adage, write what you know, it's always helpful when you base a character on a person that you know. You get that level where you can almost anticipate how they would say something or how they would react in a certain situation. And I think, as you probably know, that makes your writing that much better when it's based on reality, and then you sort of expand on reality to make it part of your story.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think that that's so true, is when you can base it on reality, and even in fiction writing, to have in mind a character, a friend that you knew, somebody that you know well, or something you watched on TV, whatever it is
Yeah,
that you can, oh, this is like Richie Cunningham from Happy Days,
right, exactly.
whatever it happens to be, even though it's some completely other character, but to draw out those personality traits and the way they speak. And I got to tell you, I'm a grandma. And
You don't look it.
well, you're sweet, but I just brought one of my grandkids to college for the first time
Oh my gosh.
yesterday. I know, off to university.
Wow, that's a big
Yeah,
deal.
it is a big deal. And she's brilliant. She's going to engineering school at University of Michigan. I mean,
Oh
she's
wow, she is
brilliant girl.
brilliant. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. But she uses those teenage words, low key. I low key da 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 da. And so once in a while I'll try to use it, and I
Yeah,
always use it wrong.
me
I
too.
have no idea how to use those words.
Yeah, it's like a foreign language almost.
It is. It is. It's like right. Like there should be a degree in it. Like
Yes.
French, German, teenage. I don't know.
That's
what?
right.
Yeah.
Some sort of website that you could log into that has like a translation app feature where you could write in what you heard and then it tells you what it really means.
Right. Like the meta glasses. You ought to be able to just press and record, and then what is actually being said.
Absolutely, I would love that.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. So it is interesting because I remember, I'm sure when I was a teenager there were some words, right?
Yeah.
And that, my parents were probably going, what the heck are you saying? Like, why are you using that word that way?
Yes.
And we always have that, in every generation, I guess, words of time, for teens and tweens. How do you work that in, or how do you deal with that when you're writing?
Well, actually, that's a really good question, because one of the things that I've been trying to do in my writing is to make it sound very classic and almost like it could occur in any time frame. I think some of my favorite writers from my childhood, like Beverly Cleary and Judy Blume, would write so that you really couldn't tell, was it the 80s, was it the 70s, was it the aughts, And so I try really hard to refrain from using like common terms that would appear today, because my dream, of course, is to have my work last a long time and be timeless, and people can pick it up at any time, at any age, and say, oh, this is still a great story. And so I resist it. I think it's hard to avoid some of the phrases, but I just go with, when I do use like more teenage terminology, I try and do the generic classic ones like, oh gosh, or whatever, things that they could apply from any generation. But I have really, really stayed away from trying to be current, because number one, I am too old for that. And number two, I think I would sound a little bit silly if I tried to incorporate that into my writing. That's really probably just my own fears I'm projecting, but I have kids that are very good critics, and they would probably let me know. And, by the time you write a book to the time it gets published, the words probably change anyways.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And if it were me, I'd be misusing them. And nobody would understand it. So it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Right.
So you have two sons.
I do.
And what do they think of their mom as a writer?
I have my older son is about to turn 15 and my younger son is 12. And I think it's interesting for me to sort of reflect on how they see me, because they don't really know I had a whole other career life before I had them. And part of the reason why I left working at Deloitte was so that I could be home to raise them and then have the flexibility to exercise my creativity. There's one story that my older son well, he didn't exactly tell it, but it happened with my older son. I wrote my first book, HurriCamp, several years ago. I think it's about 3 now. And one of his friends had read the book over the summer. And for English class, they had to do a book report on a book they loved from the summer. And so this young lady talked about my book. And I heard this secondhand, so I never really heard it from him, but someone in the class said, "Hey, isn't that your mom?" And my son looks up and he says, "Oh yeah, that is my mom." And this girl said it was the best book she ever read. And so this is the kind of feedback I would have loved to have heard directly from my son, but he forgot. So I heard it from a different child's mother, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. I'm so proud that, someone thought my book was great in your class." And he's like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." So I don't know how my kids really view me because, they're kids, but I think for me to be able to be a role model that I can do all this stuff at home and I could also hopefully do things that make the world a better place, perhaps that will elevate me maybe a step or two in their eyes. But, for me, just the passion that I have from doing something I love hopefully carries into everything else that I do. And they are great kids. I don't want to diminish how wonderful they are and how amazing they are in their own right, but they are not good at remembering important things that would make their mom feel great if they just remembered them from school.
So what you're saying is they're normal kids.
Yeah, I would say they are quite normal in every way.
Do they read your books?
When I first wrote my first book, I read it out loud to them, and I think that probably made the book 20 times better because I was able to do all these different funny voices and I really knew the characters. And the second book, my older son was able to read for himself, but I think, me being able to read it with my inflections and things that I thought would be really funny and hysterical, I think came out better if I had done an audiobook for them. But I gave my son the book. He went to sleepaway camp and my books happened to take place at a sleepaway camp. So I put them in his bag and he gave the books away to other people. But I'm sure if he wanted to reread them, I would be more than happy to give him a copy, but he's happy just to show it off to his friends. So I'll take whatever kind of compliments I can get in however form they come.
That's right. That's right. Well, someday they'll probably be read to your grandkids, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting because I've written a few books, and I don't think any of my kids have ever read anything I've written.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm working on my third book right now, and both of my boys are sort of on the upper edge of the demographic, but they know so much about the characters, and some of the plot ideas are from them. So I have a feeling that there'll be a vested interest in reading the third book. So now I just have to finish it and get moving on it before they, become 18 and grow out of the house. But my goal is to wrap up a first draft in the next few weeks, and then the fun process of editing will begin, which I think it's like rewriting the book 7 times over, but needs to be done. But I'd be really excited to get their feedback because they're at a different point in their lives from the first book that I wrote. And, from your own children and grandchildren, like time flies and they mature at such a rapid rate that what, they could understand or not understand a few years ago is, their experiences have just grown exponentially. So I'll be really fascinated and hopefully positively rewarded for what I write in this next book that I'm sure that they will find a lot of humor in because they're stories that they told me.
Yeah. Which then for them to read stories, that would be interesting and fun, I would think, for them to do.
I hope. Otherwise, I've mischaracterized what they told me horribly, or I, reinterpreted it for the sake of the plot line. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Right. Well, it is interesting. Like I'm one of the books that I'm working on right now is I'm telling the stories of what my kids have told me I did wrong.
Oh, wow.
Do differently. Yeah. And it's so fun to write. It's really, really fun to write. None of my kids are happy about it that I'm writing.
Oh, wow.
I just keep saying, well, then don't tell me I screwed up. Then I don't have any material. And so then, of course, it's my translation of their translation of what happened,
Oh, that's so interesting. And are you attributing it to, will the people know, or your children know that it's them that told you, or is it like sort of 100%. Anonymous? Oh, wow.
Yeah, no anonymity. No, none. It is actually, it is full out there. And I think it's hysterical. It is just fun. really
Yeah.
fun to write because I don't know. I don't know if you ever did this as a kid, or as you grew.
Hmm.
But I remember sitting in my mother-in-law's living room one time, and she had 8 kids,
Oh,
8.
wow. Oof,
I mean,
that's a
a
lot.
billion, right? And they were talking about what she did wrong. And they were saying, "Oh, mom, remember you used to, and remember you did this, and you remember," and they're
Yeah.
laughing and joking about it. Well, she's getting more and more upset. She ended up leaving the room crying.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my heart just broke for her. And I just thought, oh my word, is that going to be me someday?
Hmm.
I'm going to be sitting there and my kids are going to tell me everything that I did wrong, you know, whether, tongue in cheek or not, and
Yeah.
I'm going to react to that. And sure enough, the day came and my
Hmm.
kids are, if there was an Olympic sport,
Yeah.
telling your mom, how she screwed up, my kids are
Yeah.
gold medalists, like very, very good at it. And so, yeah, so as
I
they,
bet it's universal, though. I would imagine that the subject matter of what you're writing about is, something I would imagine a majority of parents across the universe could say, yeah, I did that too. Or I did something really similar to that.
yeah, yeah, I think it's probably true. And I don't think any of it is like so devastating, like
Mhm.
I mean, they didn't have it so bad.
Right. I keep
I'm
saying I
waiting,
wish I could be reincarnated in my children because they have
right?
really good lives.
No kidding, no kidding. Well, I think that, as time goes by
Hmm.
and as their kids grow, that they'll realize that, the things that they're saying to me are going to come back to them in some way,
Right.
and then maybe they'll have a little sympathy
I
for me.
bet your books are going to be a bestseller, though. I have a very strong suspicion that will do very well.
Yeah, well, it's fun to write. I can tell you that.
That's great. It makes it even more enjoyable when you
Yeah,
love what you're writing about and you're working with, hopefully not too much material, though. Just like, 13 chapters or whatever you need to make it enough that it's a story that, people can read from front to finish.
yeah, yeah. Well, and as a parent, you do the best you can,
Right.
right? I mean, and you make the decisions you make
Hmm.
based on what you know at the time when you know it. Like one of my
Yes.
kids' biggest complaints, a couple of my kids, is where they went to school.
Hmm.
Well, we chose where they went to school at that time. We thought it was the best choice for them.
Right.
And so that's where they went to school. But then they complain about it. It's like, well, I don't know. One's a doctor, one works for NASA. Like, I don't know where they'd be any better if they went to school.
Honestly.
I'm not sure, but there you go. But so
Hmm.
yeah, so you've got all those moments to look forward to.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's a future book in there for me to,
Oh,
to
I
write
think so.
as well.
Maybe, or although maybe your kids won't complain, they'll just go, "Mom, you were the greatest mom ever in the history of the world. You did everything perfectly right."
I mean, I think that, on some level there may be that, but no, I think human nature always gets the best of you and you need to share where there's feedback.
Yes.
Can't hold it in.
Yeah, yeah, no, so true, so true. So as a mom, and you're writing these books, and you're obviously writing them for kids, your kids' ages, or the ages your kids were, as they're
Yeah.
getting older. And it's so important that we have great literature for kids to read. And
Yes.
certainly it's a genre that has taken off. Like in my day, it was Nancy Drew and
Yeah.
Bobbsey twins,
Mm-hmm.
the Hardy Boys. That was
Yep.
about it. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a lot for tweens.
Yes.
And now there's a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
which is so good. Have you seen an increase in kids wanting to read, liking to read because there's so much more available?
I think in a way there's so much out there. It's almost overwhelming. The middle grade, 8 to 12-year-old, that's the age group that I write for. There is just like a bombardment of literature. I think it's amazing though, because whatever your interest is, there's a really strong possibility that you'll find an author that has a subject that appeals to what you want to read. And there can never be enough books in the world. Like my philosophy is like, even though I want everyone to read my book, I also appreciate anybody that can write a good book, a powerful book, a positive book, a book that has a great message that can impact children or adults of any age. I think we need more books that can help people be more positive people. And you and I spoke about, how we both strive to make the world a better place. And for me, I think it's using the stories that I write that have positive messages, characters that make some silly mistakes, some, mistakes that perhaps if you could take back in another life you wouldn't make, but ultimately it's sort of like a feel-good story. And, I think about a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, "In a gentle way you can shake the world." And that's something that I try and do with the characters that I write that are relatable to children, and just speak in a voice that children can identify with wherever you are, whatever, is where you are in life. And, the more books that we can have like that, in my opinion, now, everybody's open to having their own views on things, but I think the more books that we can have where children or readers of any age can step into another world or see the world back reflected at them, we have, such opportunity to shape and mold children to be their best selves. And that's what I hope to do, and hope other authors that are out there doing the same thing, keep writing.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And your books do that. The characters that you bring out, and I can't imagine any kid reading your book and not being able to relate to at least one of the characters.
That's the hope,
So,
thank you
yeah.
so much for that. I mean, I try and write like a range of characters, and they all have something that is endearing or funny or unique about them. And each of the characters that I write about, like, I always enjoy thinking about how they would react. And some are, as you know, kids love extreme characters. Like there's this snooty character that's always grumpy and finding fault, and there's a really smart character that she can always figure out a way to get around it. And I love where you can put your energy into a character and really develop that character, and then later down the line you have somebody say, like, "This was my favorite character," or, "I really love when your character did this, and it was embarrassing, but it was great how she recovered from it." And that's kind of how kids grow and learn, is, by the models that they see. And if it's not in real life, hopefully it can be a great model from literature. And, going back in time, there's so many amazing characters to choose from.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. And you do such a great job of it. And yes, yeah, I think it is so important. And, it's so wonderful. Reading does transport you into a whole nother world. So
Yes.
no matter what you got going on in life, you can go be somewhere else for a while.
Right.
And kind of leave everything, your cares, your worries, your everything behind, and escape to another
Yes.
place for a while. And what a gift that is
Yeah.
to give to
Yeah.
kids.
It's a very low cost vacation,
It is.
especially if you go to the library and you check it out for free.
Yeah, and especially if you added up the number of hours that you work on a book, and then how
Yes.
much a book costs. You
Right.
go, holy cow, it is a bargain. It is like a bargain basement pricing. The price of that
Absolutely.
book. Yeah, and
Yes.
what goes into it. So
Hmm.
yeah, and yeah, so I love it. I love it that your books are available and that they do hold such I don't know, such good truths,
Yeah.
like good lessons to learn, good things to know, good things that maybe the kids will avoid,
Yes.
because they see it happening with
Right.
character, and also things that kids want to strive for because
Hmm.
they see it in one of your characters.
Yeah. That's the goal. It really is.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it, and
Thank you.
yeah, and it is so important. And to get kids loving reading. My mom,
Yes.
a reader, just she read at least a book a week or
Hmm.
more, and wanted me to love reading so
Yes.
bad,
Hmm.
and I didn't. I didn't as a kid.
Oh.
Like I could get through a Nancy Drew, but holy
Hmm.
cow, it was painful for me. I
Right.
would rather be doing anything but reading, I think.
Hmm.
But I look around now and I feel like there's so many more kids who truly love reading uh,
Yes.
than when I was a kid.
I mean, I don't know. When I was growing up, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of the distractions. I'll say distractions. There's benefits and burdens from technology, but when I was a kid, you either had a place like a park or your backyard or a neighbor's house where you went to play. You had books, you had writing. There weren't as many options. Now you can sit on a phone and scroll and scroll and scroll for hours. And it scares me because that could be the go-to instead of picking up a book. For me, like if I have a free moment and I'm not doing laundry or cooking or shopping or cleaning up, I've got my hand in a book and I'm reading, and that for me that's how I relax. But children nowadays have different ways to de-stress. But you're right. I think the more you can get kids to read, the better off we'll be.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the ways I think too, like now I love to read. I love to read and can't get enough of it. But I don't know why as a kid it just didn't capture me.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it could have been the lack of what was out there maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like you said, no matter what your interest, you're gonna find something
Right.
that your kid can read, no matter what it is that they love and whatever. And then also books like yours that are really for any kid.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like uh, science fiction, or you don't have to like be in love with dragons or
Yes.
something. Yeah, you have something for everybody in your books. And so I love that too about your books. They're really for everybody.
That's great,
So
because I don't have any dragons, I don't think, in any of my books, but maybe I should put one in just in case,
Yeah.
just to cover all the bases.
Right. Or maybe somebody in a dragon costume.
Right.
Or a dog named Dragon.
There you
Maybe
go.
that's
I'm
what
going to
you
make
do.
a note of
A
that.
goldfish named Dragon.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Rather than Dragon.
That's right. I know you're referring to the pet goldfish I got at a carnival when I was 9, I think. And tragically, the goldfish passed away at a very untimely age herself.
Yeah.
There's a story there too, though.
Yeah. Well, though, when I read about that with you,
Mhm.
kids want a pet. I mean,
Yes.
I think all kids go through at least a time, if not their entire lives, where they're like, can we have a dog? Can we have a dog? Can we have a dog?
Yes.
Or a cat or whatever.
Right.
And over the years, my kids had different things, a little dwarf bunny that lived in the house that we tried to, kitty litter train, and we're
Oh
all
my.
somewhat successful. And
Uh-huh.
and gerbils and guinea pigs and all of that. But I really like an animal that loves you back.
Right. Yeah.
And right. And so, like a gerbil, I don't think they really ever get to know me. I never had that experience.
Right. Right.
Rats are pretty smart, but a mouse isn't gonna, or
No,
like,
I can tell you, we had a mouse in our apartment the other day, and I did not want to get to know it.
you weren't friends. You didn't
No,
leave.
we did not
No.
connect. We did not connect on a spiritual level.
Yeah, but a dog.
A dog, yes, something
Right.
that you can be affectionate with, and they provide affection back. And you're right, I wanted a dog when I was a kid, and I never had one. And maybe I'm lacking as a grown-up, but my mom said it was too much responsibility and too much maintenance. And I think she was really more focused on the maintenance than responsibility, because my sister and I definitely could have taken care of a dog, no problem. But yeah, it's hard when you have parents that don't want fur and all the work that comes in with a pet, and it is a lot. And now I view my husband and 2 children as my adorable pets, because they do require a lot of work, but they also give back love, so it's a good thing. But yeah, I would say the goldfish that I had when I was a kid wasn't the right fit.
Yeah, well, you couldn't really pick it up and cuddle with
No,
it.
no,
Sure.
it slipped right out.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because there is something I think to be said about kids and pets, and
Yeah.
you just put up with the hair. I mean, it just
Yes.
kind of part of the whole thing is that you're going to put up with the chewed slipper and the hair and the whatever. But
Yeah.
man, they just love you unconditionally.
That's
Right.
like, my younger son has been begging for a dog for a very long time. And like every now and again, like I'll entertain, like, what if, like, I'll be lonely when they go to college. So, maybe a dog is the right idea a few years before they go to college. And then I'm like, oh, but then you have to walk the dog and clean it up and, take it to the vet and grooming. And it's like on and on, more things to add to the hours in your day that are already limited. But then I'm like, but what about one that doesn't shed? I
Right.
could research that kind of breed, and
Yeah. One that doesn't shed, isn't high energy.
doesn't bark too much.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like just another person, but and I don't want to go back to having children again. I'm good with what I have. I'm definitely maxed out. So I don't know. I guess I'll have to give it some more thought. But until then, maybe I'll just write about like imaginary pets in my book, and that'll be sufficient.
Yeah, well, you can tell your son I'm team dog.
Yeah. Oh, my
Yeah.
sister has a dog, and we call her the family dog, so that my sons can feel like they have a pet. And then she goes home, and I clean up after all the fur that she's left behind.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
very lovely, sweet, compassionate but not that intelligent basset hound beagle mix named Stella. And if she hears her name, maybe she'll perk up if my sister listens to this podcast, which I now know she will. But Stella's a great dog, and she is a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, when you have kids, when you're watching somebody else's kids, way different than when you have your own, right?
Right, yeah.
And with a dog, it's the same with a dog.
Yeah.
This is your dog nephew or your dog
Hmm.
niece, whatever. But a dog of your own would be different. I
Yeah,
guarantee.
I'm sure. I mean, everyone's like, well, I would do this differently if it were my child slash
Right.
pet, and I don't know. I've never had a dog though, so I'd be like, oh, this is almost like having a baby again, because like I had no experience with children when I first had my own, and that was pretty
You're alive.
daunting.
You've done
Yeah.
good. You've kept
I
them all.
know. I feel like I'm at 100% right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's a lot to know about dogs too.
There is, but there's YouTube.
Yeah, and I
You can
think,
fix the toilet, you can clean out your gutters, and you can have a dog.
that's right. And,
Yeah.
people that are not as into research and, doing all the homework that I'm sure would do, they have dogs, and they're also fine pet owners in their own right, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
all right, maybe you're pushing me over. I don't know. We better change the topic.
You can tell your son that it's because of me if you end up getting a dog.
I will.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to name him after you.
Oh, yeah. No, Kim is a nice name for a dog.
Kim is a nice name. It could be a boy, it could be a girl,
Right,
depends,
either way.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, so yeah. So I'll be excited for you to get your dog.
I'll keep you posted. Just,
thank you.
don't wait for like next week. Just give me some time.
Give you an extra minute or two.
Yeah, just, so I can do the research of what kind.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure maybe after this podcast, people will give you all kinds of information and
You know what? I think that actually would be really helpful. So I would welcome anyone's feedback, input, suggestions. I would want to check out the shelters, make sure, take dogs from homes that, maybe they didn't have. So,
Right.
yeah, I have a lot of work ahead of me now. And I need to finish my third book.
And by the way, you're raising two kids and you have a husband and and
Yeah.
another thing that I read about you too is that you enjoy date night.
Yes.
And I would love to hear about date night because some people get hung up on that. Like, first of all, do you do it? What are the reasons why? And then secondly, what do you do on date night?
Well, my husband is an extremely hardworking, determined, motivated person. And if he didn't have boundaries to say, stop working, take a moment, breathe, he probably would continue to work in his sleep. So date night, I think, started as a way for him to get himself out from behind his desk and spend time with me. And he, I love it when he says, like, I always feel better after I spend time with you. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing my job as a supportive spouse and calming influence, which, I think everybody likes to be seen as the person that's the source of calm in the household, which hopefully I occupy that role. So we started with Thursday nights as the date night, and we've been pretty good about keeping it. For us, it's really just a matter of like going out to dinner somewhere simple, nothing elaborate. I think when you overthink things, it gets too complicated. And so, I'll say, do you want to go here to this restaurant? And he'll say, no, we were just there. I'm like, okay, how about this one? And there's a whole back and forth routine of, oh, I don't want this, I want that. And then finally we'll reach a consensus of where we can go, and off we go. And, just a few hours to take a break from the world of home life or work life or the combination of the two is, I think, it's refreshing and regenerating. And, if we can go out more, we can. I think he probably tires of my cooking, which is why we go out. Because I'm a creature of habit, and so chicken is a frequent element of what is the main course for dinner. So when you go out to a restaurant, you have a lot more choices than what I have on hand. So everybody can get what they want. And it's just a nice way to step back. And I love that we carve out that time together, because otherwise I think we would just keep running on our treadmills of life. And when we come together, somebody's tired, somebody's stressed, and, giving each other that time to say we're going to focus on whatever it is we focus on for a little while. But we both eat very quickly, so date night does not last a long time. But it's good. It's nice to just get out and be with each other and reconnect.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is so true and so, so important, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because, I've heard in the past, I don't know if it was Dr. Dobson or somebody said, the greatest thing that you can do, the greatest gift you can give your kids is a happy marriage. But to be in a happy marriage, you got to stay connected.
Yes.
It can be difficult when you're running to soccer games and you're cooking dinner and all the pile of laundry that never ends. You never get to the bottom of
Yes.
that laundry.
I can attest to that.
Right? And all this stuff that you have to do, you can get so caught up in the busyness of life that you forget about each other.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to stay
Yeah.
connected, to have a time every week that is just the two of you.
Yeah.
It's a gift for you and for your kids. I mean, it really is.
I think you're right. I mean, it doesn't have to be 6 hours. It can be an hour, 45 minutes, just something that you're setting aside. You're in the right mindset that this is what I'm going to do. And I think, you're right. It is great for kids to see, like, here are two people that have a lot on their plates without even having children, and, making the time to come together for whatever you can give that week. It's a really positive, healthy message for kids. And I don't think about that as often as I'm like, oh, where are we going to go for dinner? Or, what are we going to do for XYZ? So yeah, it's a good way to just kind of just pause on running around and not putting in that time and effort to think about what will make this other person happier, content, or calmer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you keep your marriage alive, I've seen couples before where it is just the busyness of the kids growing up and all the stuff. And then pretty soon you're an empty nester and you're like, who is this stranger sleeping in my bed?
Right.
Like, who is this guy? And staying connected is just so, so valuable, so important. And you guys are going to be together forever, right? Like the kids, you raise them, you can't imagine them moving out, but someday they do. And it's a good thing. You want them to be independent. You hopefully are raising them to be independent. And so it's good when they go off to school and they go find their way. Like that's a good thing.
Yes.
But you still have that other person living with you. And so keeping that relationship going and fresh and wonderful.
Yeah. It is amazing how quick the time goes. I met my husband. Actually, I get the numbers wrong every single time. I think we've been married like 23 years, but it could be 24. But honestly, like after, 15 or 20, like once you hit that milestone, I'm like, oh, I have to really think back and do the math. But time goes pretty quickly, which, again, it's important to make that effort and to focus. And, with my kids, I can't believe that like my son's in high school and my other son's in middle school. Like it was just yesterday that I was changing diapers and, dealing with washing bottles. And it's incredible that it just keeps speeding up and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. As I see more wrinkles and gray hairs on my head, it's definitely speeding up.
Yeah, well, it's so true. I often think that sometimes days last forever, but then years just fly by.
Yeah.
So you can have like the longest days that seem like they never end. And then you're like, how did July get here? Like, what the heck just happened?
Right.
And now, how did he grow another foot? Like, what is going on?
I just bought him all new shirts.
Yeah, because they grow. You feed them and they grow. I mean, it's like house plants or something. I don't know, but
it's true. And with the 12 going on 13-year-old, like I know I'm just going to be like wash it one day and it doesn't fit the next. I saw it with my older son and I'm like, oh, I hope your brother wears this shirt.
Yeah, that's brand new.
Yeah, worn once.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to your writing, it's interesting to me why people pick what genre they pick to write. right? Like there's always, some reason behind it.
Mhm.
So why is the 8 to 12-year-old? What hits you about that?
Again, you've hit on a really good question. Very perceptive. I think for me, it's the teenage years. I wouldn't say they were inordinately difficult, but they were such a big time of transition in my life. And for me, writing is sort of the way that I work through my feelings and emotions. And I don't think I did it enough when I was, you know, at that 8 to 12-year-old range. And I think for me, in my mind's eye, I am stuck forever as a 13-year-old girl. And, a lot of things emotionally happened at that age. And you deal with rejection, you'll deal with acceptance, and athletics and academics, and it's all coming together and it starts to mean something. And so for me, the reason that I love this age group is because I feel like I have so much wisdom that I've gained as a grown up that I wish I could have told my 13-year-old self or my younger self. And I suppose in a way it's me trying to help future generations skip over some of the drama and trauma that I went through, just as part of the generic adolescent experience. And, the more you can give humor and perspective, I think the better it is you can go through the challenges that you face at whatever age it is that you're facing them. And so I think that's what age group really spoke to me as where I could make the most impact, because I wish I had the knowledge. Everybody has 2020 hindsight desire, to go back and say, oh, if I could do this all over again. And my first book that I wrote, called HurriCamp, was about when I went to sleepaway camp for the first time and I actually hated it and was horribly homesick. And in my book, it's the same experience, except, since it's a children's book, the plot is much faster, there's more humor, and without spoiling too much, there's a happy ending. And for me, if I could have gone back in time and had the attitude that the character in the book ends up embracing, I think I would have had a different experience, and I would have, adapted to challenges differently if I had found the courage that I wish I knew I already had. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to give back to readers of this age group and of any age group. It's just that wisdom and experience and insight of been there, done that, wish I could have done it differently. Here's your chance to do that. So that's I think in a nutshell why I am so drawn to that age group. And now that my kids are of getting past it, I'm wondering maybe I'll move to YA. We'll see.
Yeah, well, yeah, as your character and your characters can grow and grow
Yeah,
up,
right,
age, whatever, I guess. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's really interesting because to me, that's the toughest ages. You hear that
right.
all the time, right? Those are really the toughest ages. And there's so many things that happen. There could be a queen bee that rises up with the girls, and
Mm-hmm.
just the different dynamics. And you have these friends when you're younger, then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden there's friend groups, and
Yeah.
things just change. And are you in? Are you out? Or kids think that there's an in and an out, and
Mm-hmm.
just all the stuff that it's a tough age for kids to go through.
Yes, it really is. For me, I was lucky. I had athletics. I was a really good athlete. I don't know if it's appropriate to say tomboy, but I was a tomboy as a kid and as an adult, frankly. But now you can sort of blend into any exercise clothes outfit and still look sharp.
Uh-huh.
But I had sports. I was on all these teams as a kid, and so you sort of get friends through your athletic involvement. But at the same time, I was kind of like a nerdy dork, but cooler because I played sports. And I don't know if that helped me transcend some of the drama that kids experience, but I think it's natural that kids always feel like an outsider even if you aren't. And it's a really tough age. There's a lot of emotion, and the more sort of support areas you can have in your life, whether it's sports, whether it's another activity, I think that does make the time a little bit easier. But I don't think there's ever going to be someone that goes through childhood and said, oh, mine was perfect. No issues, no complaints, all good.
That's right. That's right. I think that that's so true. I think it's true. But I love it that this is the age that you picked,
Yeah,
because it is such a crucial time in a kid's life. And to have characters, because when you're in a book, those characters become your friends. They become
yeah,
people that they're not just
right.
written on a page, but you imagine them, you know them.
Hmm.
And so to have these friends coming off the page that are great role models that can be funny,
Yeah,
on, and can be serious when they need to be, um,
right.
I think is just so important. I appreciate you so much that this is what you're doing, because it's
Thank you so
so good.
much.
So
You're,
good. You're a great writer. I mean, you could write anything. And so, yeah, if you move into YA, of course you can move into YA, but
yeah.
uh, not everybody can write what you write.
Wow, that's,
Such a great job.
I'm really touched. Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
well, it's absolutely true. So yeah, I appreciate it. So what does the future hold? So you've gotten book 3, you're working on
Uh-huh.
book 3, getting it done pretty soon.
Yeah.
What do you see in the future?
Ooh, well, I hope to have my next book out. I don't want to put a timeline on it, but like sooner rather than later, I'd say. And then I don't know, I think I need to take a pause from this series, but I've got a whole bunch of ideas. So we've been talking about a goldfish throughout this conversation, and that's been in my blogs that I love writing. And I don't know if there's a way I can turn some of the blogs I've written into a bigger book of lessons learned. It's something that's sort of in the back of my head that I just want to keep as something, to keep me moving forward. And or maybe it's pivoting and doing some other kind of writing, whether it's shorter form like a column or, I don't know. It's great that there are so many avenues in the world, though, that you can have a website and you could post things that are important to you or that speak, this is what I want to tell people about. And for me, that's my blogs that I write about life lessons I've learned from childhood, and then I come back from the adult perspective and sort of do my own analysis, even though I am not licensed in any form of therapy, but licensed in life, I suppose. I think that whatever you do that keeps you engaged, that keeps you curious, I think I've read articles about having awe in your life, being inspired by awe is what makes a life happier. And so I constantly seek that. I'm not somebody that's an adrenaline junkie, so I won't be jumping out of airplanes or doing parachutes, but things that I can read about, things that I can write about, that's what inspires me and makes me want to keep doing what I'm doing because, you think about if you can impact one person, two people, however many people, like there's no greater validation that you're doing something important or special than whether you can have a positive impact on others in the world. And I think ultimately that's probably what drives me to keep my pen on the paper, as they would say.
Yeah, well, and you're doing it, which is incredible. And who knows how many kids you're going to inspire throughout your lifetime. And like you said, the books live on and on,
Yeah,
which is also really a cool thing is
yeah,
uh, they live on beyond you. And, once they're on paper and once they're in print,
yeah.
there. And whether it's a blog online that stays
Hmm.
there forever and ever, or a book in print that stays there forever and ever.
Yeah,
So yeah, so you're definitely doing what you want to do. You're having an impact on people's lives, and pretty
yeah.
incredible thing. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And it is nice that there's choices that you
right.
can do whatever it is that you feel led to do, you want to do,
Yeah.
and see what happens,
It's
just
true. I mean, I think, everything in life happens for a reason. And as far as I can remember back to when I started writing, like everything has been informing how I get to where I go next. And, it's almost like a dotted line where you leap from one line to one line. And then all of a sudden you've got this pattern that, it's this beautiful pattern that you didn't even realize you were creating. And, it's hard to see it when you're in the moment, but I hope that if I can ever take a step back and look at what I've done, I'll appreciate the hard work that I put into everything because you never know when you're doing it. Is this going to be something that will pay off, whatever payoff it is, whether it's, people having been impacted, whether it's financial, whether it's just status, whatever it speaks to you as to what helps you become validated. And I'm doing something that's pushing the world in the right direction. We'll see.
oh, there is absolutely no doubt that you are. And it's awesome. It's amazing. Buy the books, buy the books, buy the books, everybody. And buy the books for other people. Not just your own kids, but other kids, or you've got grandkids or nieces, nephews, whatever. these are books that truly are for every kid. You know, there are some books that are not, you know, because kids have certain interests, whatever. These truly are books for every kid that every kid would enjoy and love. And what kid doesn't want to laugh? And these make you laugh out loud. And so they're really good. And I'll of course have all the links and all the stuff so that people can get them. But I encourage you to buy them, and not just one copy. Send them to other people. Buy a bunch of copies. You're gonna want to read them yourself because they're really good. And I love it that you brought up curiosity and awe, and because I think it's true. It can be so easy to lose that as an adult
Yeah.
and think that we don't get to be curious anymore. We don't get to look for those moments of awe anymore. But those are the moments that life is about. And
Yes.
and staying curious, you know, keep that curious kid
Mm-hmm.
active, and feed that
Yes.
kid and water them, you know, whatever them grow.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, I heard recently that whatever you like to do, like when you were a kid, the thing that you were most passionate about, that you love to do, that's probably what you should be doing as an adult. And
Yes.
quite often, you know, we have those dreams, but we let those dreams go because life gets in the way. And
Right.
so I think it's interesting to sit back and think about, well, what was I doing when I was 10 that
Mm-hmm.
I really loved?
Yeah.
You know, and for you, it was writing.
Yep.
And then here you are. And
Right.
how great is that?
It's either great or I'm so stubborn that I can't let anything go. But I prefer great.
We'll go with great for
Yeah,
now.
I think great too. Yeah.
But keeping that going, and
Yeah.
looking for avenues to be able
Right.
to do it. I've got a couple friends that are so into pottery,
Uh-huh.
and they love it. And it's,
Yes.
you know, playing with clay. Who didn't
Mm-hmm.
like to play with clay when they were a kid, right?
Yeah, right.
And
And you can
yeah,
create something beautiful, or, it just makes you happy and it relaxes you and it gives you peace.
yeah,
You should absolutely continue on things that give you that joy.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
if it's only just for you, I think, that's also just as important as, writing a book and putting it out for the world. But sometimes maybe it's just writing something for yourself or doing something for yourself that gives you joy and pleasure and feeds your soul. I think you don't always have to show everything to the world.
I think that those are wise words. I think that that's absolutely true. And the more joy you have in your life, the less room there is for ick.
Yes,
And so who doesn't want that
I,
too?
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so I'm curious. Somewhere along the line in your lifetime, somebody probably gave you some big nugget, great advice
hmm
you hang on to today. Is there do you have that?
I've gotten a lot, I think, I would say probably like little nuggets. But, I think for me, the biggest lessons I've learned were when I didn't succeed. I'll be candid. I didn't like law school all that much. I thought it was really hard and demanding, and it was a different style of teaching that I was used to. It was something called the Socratic method, where you're called on and you're not necessarily raising your hand. And I'm like a deer in headlights. Like, I like to prepare, I like to be ready, I like to know what I'm going to be saying. And for me, law school was shoved me out of my comfort zone. It wasn't even just like a gentle push. And I remember that I took a class in advanced legal writing because I gravitated towards writing. And one of the law librarians said to me, like, you should keep doing this because you're actually really good at it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how I can make a career out of it. And she said, you'll figure it out. And, that piece of advice, it was just like a throwaway comment, but, from somebody that lives in that world and the world that I wasn't all that comfortable in, it was like, oh, okay, maybe I can. And I did just that. Like, I found writing related jobs that, gave me the writing element that I liked. I also had, health insurance, which was amazing. And then ultimately over time, I have a really supportive husband that when it was time to be at a crossroads of my career, I had the support that I could say, all right, I'm going to step back from corporate America and spend time at home and follow the passions that I found when I was in third grade, and here we are. So yeah, I think there's been a lot along the way, but I think, just knowing that I could do it, somebody believed in me enough to say, like, you've got something here. You know, I think that was huge.
Oh, wow. That's so powerful because our words mean something,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes you might say something and you have no idea the kind of impact that it can have. And hopefully it's a positive one.
Yeah. And you know, things like that really do stick with me. And you know, every time I see people, I try and genuinely give them some sort of compliment that maybe somebody, you know, wouldn't notice if you weren't paying attention. But the more you can put out that's positive and good in the world, you know, the better it is. I tell my kids when I walk them to school, which I don't know how much longer they'll want me to do that, but I try and say hello to at least 3 people before I finish dropping you off. And they're like, oh, Mom, why do you do that? I'm like, because I think it's important to make people feel seen and to, you know, provide positivity, even if it's just saying, hey, good morning, have a good day. And I feel better when I do it. And, you know, as silly as it is, I'm like, maybe I should raise the bar from 3 to 5.
Oh,
But, you know, just doing good things, however big or small, and as cliche as that sounds, like it does have an impact, I think.
absolutely, it does. It does. I love that. This has been so fun. I can't believe that our time is
Oh
up.
my gosh,
I could talk to you forever and ever and ever. This was so great.
the
And
time has flown. You're
yeah,
amazing, and I'm so appreciative for all your kind words and your support, Kim. You're an amazing person, and the energy that you have is just phenomenal. I can honestly say that I thought we just started like 10 minutes ago.
yeah, well, I can say the same about you because your energy is great and your positivity comes through, shining through. And I love what you're doing and that you're doing it for other people, for so many people. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for being here today. I so appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And until next time, I just pray that you keep your heart open and live your love loud.